When my superiors assigned me to assess the human settlement on Duran 4, I expected a routine diplomatic mission. The directive was simple: evaluate the colony's strategic value, determine their defensive capabilities, and extend an offer of Kavash protection. My species has perfected this approach across 17 star systems. The pattern is always the same. Find an isolated outpost or colony on a resource-rich world, demonstrate our superior technology and military presence, then offer protection in exchange for modest tribute. Most species recognize the practicality of our arrangement. Some require a minor demonstration of force before accepting reality. None refused outright. Until I met the humans of Sandstone Junction, the colony barely qualified as a settlement by Kavash standards, perhaps 200 structures scattered across a dusty plateau, surrounded by endless stretches of red desert and jagged mesas. Their environmental shields were minimal, their perimeter defenses virtually non-existent. My scanners detected no orbital defenses, no significant weapons emplacements, and no military vessels in the vicinity. In other words, perfect candidates for Kavash protection. I landed my diplomatic shuttle on their designated visitor pad, allowing my exo-atmospheric suit to adjust to the planet's harsh conditions before disembarking. The welcoming committee consisted of 5 humans, their town council, as they called themselves. They showed none of the fear or awe that typically greets a Kavash envoy. "Welcome to Sandstone Junction," said the apparent leader, a female with graying hair and sun-weathered skin. "I'm Mayor Winnie Smith. We don't get many visitors from the Kavash Empire." "The Kavash hegemony," I corrected, my translation matrix rendering my clicks and whistles into their crude language. Though empire is not entirely inaccurate. They led me to their council chamber, a simple structure with a domed roof and primitive cooling systems. The room contained a circular table with worn chairs, nothing like the grand negotiation halls I was accustomed to. No ceremonial guards, no displays of wealth or power. How had such an unimpressive species managed to establish colonies across multiple star systems? After the obligatory refreshments and introductions, I proceeded with my carefully prepared address. "Esteemed representatives of humanity," I began, activating a holographic display showing the might of the Kavash fleet. "I come to offer you an opportunity. Your settlement exists in a dangerous region of space. Pirate clans, resource prospectors, and other empires all pose significant threats to isolated colonies such as yours." I paused for effect, noting their expressions remained frustratingly neutral. "The Kavash hegemony can provide comprehensive protection. Our warships would patrol your system. Our shield technology would enhance your environmental barriers. Our warriors would ensure your safety." "And what would this protection cost us exactly?" asked a counselor named Sailor, his tone suggesting he already knew the answer. "A reasonable tribute, 20% of your mineral production, technical access to your water reclamation systems, and administrative oversight of your settlement's expansion plans." I spread my upper limbs in a gesture of generosity. A small price for security in such a hostile region. I expected the usual reactions: concern, whispered conferences, perhaps some token resistance. Instead, the council members exchanged glances. Then they laughed. Not nervous laughter, not diplomatic laughter, genuine unrestrained amusement. "I apologize for our reaction," Mayor Smith said, not sounding apologetic at all. "But we already have protection, and it doesn't cost us nearly that much." "Protection?" I scanned my intelligence briefings again. "Our records indicate no military presence on this world. No defense treaties with Earth or its colonies." "We have a Texan," said Sailor simply. My translation matrix cycled through several interpretations before settling on the most probable meaning. "You refer to a human from the Earth region of Texas? One human?" More laughter, which my cultural databases flagged as inappropriate during serious negotiations. "Perhaps I should explain," the mayor said. 3 standard years ago, a faction of the Orion Combine decided our settlement would make a good forced labor camp for their mining operations. They sent 12 ships and about 500 troops. I nodded. The Orion Combine was known for such practices, though they typically targeted even more isolated settlements. What happened? I asked, genuinely curious. They don't exist anymore, said an older counselor named Abernathy. Neither the ships nor the troops. Marshal Cobb happened. This. Marshal Cobb, he defeated 500 armed combatants? My skepticism must have been evident, despite the limitations of my facial structure. Not alone, Sailor clarified. He had his horse. Before I could process this absurdity, the chamber door swung open. A human male entered, tall even by their standards, wearing a dust-covered garment my database identified as a duster. On his head sat a wide-brimmed hat, and at his hip, a holstered weapon that appeared laughably primitive next to Kavash disruptors. "Sorry to interrupt, Mayor," he said, his voice carrying what my translator identified as a Texan accent. "Perimeter sensors picked up something unusual. Thought you'd want to know we've got company." "Marshal Cobb," Mayor Smith nodded. "This is Envoy Kashir of the Kavash hegemony. He's here to offer us protection." The human called Cobb turned to study me. Despite my superior size and clearly advanced technology, I felt an uncharacteristic discomfort under his gaze. "That right?" he drawled. "Awful nice of you. My scans detected an unusual energy signature emanating from the human's garments and weapon, something my instruments couldn't properly classify. More concerning was what I didn't detect. Fear. Marshal Cobb is our town's law enforcement," Mayor Smith explained. "He's also a Texas Knight. Semi-retired, that is," Cobb amends. "Depends on the day, depends on the threat." That designation triggered multiple security alerts in my database. Texas Knights, a specialized human combat unit combining primitive cultural aesthetics with experimental quantum technology. Classification, extreme caution. "I see," I said, reassessing the situation. "And the company you mentioned?" "3 ships entered the system about 20 minutes ago," Cobb said casually. "Kavash design, military configuration, currently holding position just beyond your lunar orbit." How had he known? Our stealth systems were supposed to be undetectable to human technology. "A standard security detail," I said smoothly, "for my protection." "Aha." Cobb adjusted his hat slightly. "And I suppose the weapon systems they're charging up are just for show." The council members showed no alarm at this news, which was alarming in itself. "A misunderstanding, perhaps," I offered. "I should contact my ships immediately to correct this error." "No need," Cobb said. "Already handled it." "You handled it?" I blinked, all 4 eyes in succession. "Sent them a message." He patted the unusual weapon at his hip. "Old Winchester quantum repeater tends to get folks' attention." "You fired a primitive projectile weapon at Kavash warships?" I couldn't contain my incredulity. "Nothing primitive about it," he corrected. "Quantum edge rounds can do interesting things to shield harmonics. Your ship's captains seemed mighty surprised when their forward barriers started unraveling. They're backing off now." My communication implant confirmed his impossible claim. The warships were indeed retreating to a safe distance, their captains reporting unprecedented shield failures from what they described as impossible weapons fire originating from the planet's surface. "Perhaps we should revisit the terms of our discussion," I suggested, my diplomatic protocols struggling to adapt to this unforeseen development. "No need for that either," Mayor Smith said cheerfully. "We appreciate the Kavash Empire's hegemony," I corrected automatically. "Hegemony's interest in our little settlement, but we're quite content with our current security arrangements." "One man cannot protect an entire settlement," I protested. Cobb chuckled. "Never said I was alone." As if summoned by his words, the distant sound of hoofbeats reached us through the council chamber walls. My suit's sensors detected multiple approaching energy signatures, each carrying the same unclassifiable quantum patterns as Cobb's equipment. "That'll be the rest of the patrol returning," he explained. 8 Texas Knights, total assigned to Sandstone Junction. Small detachment by our standards, but enough. 8. The Kavash had conquered entire star systems with fewer warriors. I believe I have misunderstood your settlement situation, I said carefully. Perhaps we should categorize Sandstone Junction as a strategic human military outpost rather than a civilian colony. Oh, we're just civilians, Sailor said with a smile. The Knights are here because Marshal Cobb likes our moonshine, and Winnie's daughter makes the best peach cobbler this side of the Orion Arm. And because Texans look after their neighbors, Cobb added. Old tradition from back on Earth tends to travel well even between stars. I had expected to leave this meeting with a signed protection agreement. Instead, I was facing the humbling prospect of reporting to my superiors that a human settlement had not only rejected our offer, but had effectively warned off our warships with technology we didn't understand. I see, I said, rising to my full height. I will bring this information back to my government. We may need to reassess our understanding of human colonies. You do that, Cobb said amiably. And tell your folks there's no need for all these diplomatic games. Humans are generally happy to talk trade and cultural exchange, long as everyone's honest about their intentions. As I prepared to leave, Mayor Smith walked me to the door. One more thing you should know, Envoy, she said quietly. Every human settlement out here has at least one Texas Knight assigned to it. Some have more, all in constant quantum communication with each other. A deterrent, I acknowledged. We prefer to call it a neighborly reminder, she replied with a smile that my cultural database classified as both friendly and warning. Space is big enough for all of us as long as everyone minds their manners. As my shuttle lifted off, I observed 8 riders on horse-like creatures patrolling the settlement's perimeter. Their mounts left faint trails of blue energy in the red dust, and each rider wore the distinctive wide-brimmed hat that had become synonymous with Texas Knights. In my official report, I recommended reclassifying all human settlements, no matter how small, as high-risk diplomatic engagements. I also suggested a thorough investigation into their quantum edge technology, particularly as applied to what appeared to be antique weapons and cavalry tactics. My superiors found my conclusions difficult to accept. 3 subsequent envoys were sent to various human colonies with similar protection offers. None returned with agreements. All reported encountering humans in wide-brimmed hats who spoke with distinctive drawls and rode creatures that left blue fire in their wake. The Kavash hegemony has since established a demilitarized zone around all known human settlements. We tell ourselves it's a strategic decision to focus our expansion elsewhere. But in private diplomatic cables, a new protocol has emerged. If they say they have a Texan, believe them. Thank you so much for listening to this story. I hope you enjoyed it. Be sure to leave it a like and to subscribe if you'd like to see more. Feel free to comment and share it as well. With all that said, go on and check out the video in the top left. I think you might like it.